Every week, college football games hinge on a single word.
Touchdown. Touchdown, Texas. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown, Wisconsin. Touchdown. 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 Touchdown, Stanford. Touchdown. Touchdown, Alabama. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Touchdown. Wow.
This is Touchdown Radio. Here's Gino Torretta and Taylor Zarzour.
And it's great to be back with you here on Touchdown Radio Tailgate with the 1992 Heisman Trophy winner Gino Torretta. I'm Taylor Zarzour. Typically, we are either on while a college football game is airing, or we are your pregame show for that. Tonight, we are your pregame show for the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams, which you can hear over on the Mighty 88 NFL Radio Channel 88. G, you want to make a pick? I'm not going to hold you to this pick, by the way. We'll make real college football picks later in the show, but are you taking Josh Allen on the road at the Super Bowl champs, or are you going Matt Stafford tonight?
You know, I'm rooting for the Bills. Kenny Dorsey, our old Miami quarterback, is the offensive coordinator. It's his first year for the Bills, so I'm rooting for the Bills and Josh Allen.
Come on, man!
Got to always tie it back to Miami somehow. So
tie it back to Miami. The Dolphins are in the same division. Okay, as a Dolphins fan, you can't be cheering for the Buffalo Bills tonight.
You are a Dolphins fan, Taylor.
Yes.
You have roots down here. I am my team growing up moved out of our city twice, so now it's in Las Vegas. So I'm not sure who I root for. I root for guys that went to Miami or guys that you and I have had the pleasure of interviewing that are good kids.
Torretta's Vikings, who he played for, play the Packers this weekend. Torretta's Seahawks host old quarterback Russell Wilson in Denver on Monday night. But again, much more on professional football, certainly over on Channel 88. Let's get to college football, and let's talk about what happened in week one of the season. Before I go through these games, I'm not going to lead the witness at all here, Gino. What was your biggest takeaway from week one?
You know, I think that what we usually see in the early game, similar to preseason NFL, we've seen special teams blunders, and which are mistakes. And I think that I saw some teams that might be located in the state of Florida that look vastly improved from a season ago, up north of me in Miami. So I thought that was one thing. I thought the SEC East, and everybody's saying Georgia. Tennessee's getting pretty good, and Florida's got a quarterback under center where I think he could beat anybody in the country. So I think that the SEC is going to be even more interesting this year. And but really it was kind of what you'd expect off of week one. Some mistakes, some sluggishness offensively. I mean, our broadcast of the Clemson game, it looked like their defenses, man, they are as advertised, but didn't look like any change to their offense. They just struggled all night. Yeah,
and obviously Clemson pulled away late, but it didn't really reflect that final score of 41-10. Pitt, West Virginia, backyard brawl. It was great to have that last Thursday.
How about my guy on Thursday night, CJ Donaldson? That was a kid from right here at Gulliver, my daughter's high school. I mean, a player. And I helped them out in the spring a couple years ago because I know the quarterback's family, and I went out there and helped. And I tried to get Miami to recruit him. I go, this kid, I remember the first practice, he's like 6'2", 230. And I'm like, CJ, you're a tight end. I go, man, I could line you up in two tight end set, and I could just burn safeties down the hat. I'm a wide receiver coach. And what does he do? He just goes out and lines up a running back and lights up Pitt's defense. And it was good to see that. I was a little shocked that Pitt's known for their defense, and I thought they got pretty much gassed the majority of the night. Had it not been for that big pick six in the secondary, I think that obviously the outcome game would have been different.
That got the weekend going. You mentioned the Florida-Utah game, which was thrilling with the Gators picking off a pass in the end zone to preserve the 3-point win. Ohio State and Notre Dame, defensive slugfest with the Buckeyes coming back to win 21-10. Arkansas and Cincinnati was terrific, 31-24. The Hogs beat the Bearcats, first Bearcat regular season loss in 2 years. Those games were competitive. Georgia blowing out Oregon. It just looked so Alabama-ish, the way the Dogs have started the season, blowing out the Ducks. That was kind of crazy to watch.
You think the Pac-12 conference is all in on USC already? I mean, they're stuck.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's made a playoff being a 2-loss team, and you have basically, you know, 2 of the favorites of your conference start off and get beat.
Did you mentioned the other teams in the state of Florida? I would argue Miami is the best team in the state of Florida based off of what we've seen so far. I know they didn't have much competition, but they looked really good. Florida winning the game, it's a great feather in Billy Napier's cap. They're not a finished product. Did you really take a lot from that FSU win on Sunday night? That felt like watching the Birmingham Bowl or the Independence Bowl. It just looked like 2 6 or 7 win teams playing Sunday night.
Well, the one thing I would say, and I think that you and I were on the sidelines when Notre Dame came down here for the national championship about Alabama.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to you, it looks like one team has a weight room and one team hasn't seen the weight room.
Yeah.
And Florida State's guys, I mean, they look like they've been working out hard. I mean, they were big, they were physical, and I just thought their energy was well, and they made some plays. I thought Travis has gotten better, and I thought it was market improvement. And listen, with Florida, Richardson, I thought it was crazy that Dan Mullen didn't start him the whole time last year because he's such a physical talent. Now, I know he got a banged up hamstring and stuff, but he's such a physical talent. He gives you a chance to win every single game. But I don't know. I was more impressed. And that's probably the overreaction of week 1. Like, you know, I went to the Miami game and it's like, okay, they're playing Bethune. So what can I take away from a Bethune game? We should dominate. Miami should dominate, and they should, you know, light up the scoreboard. I thought they gave up some big plays defensively, which you never like to see. But in today's college football world, everybody's going to give up some big plays defensively. But I just thought Florida and Florida State looked markedly improved from a season ago.
We had some upsets as well. Old Dominion beating Virginia Tech. Delaware beats Navy to start the season. That was a bit surprising. Congrats to JMU. James Madison goes from the FCS to the FBS, and they blow out Middle Tennessee 44-7. And
this completely throws Brett McMurphy's bowl picks in this realm out of whack in week 1.
And then, look, come to the great state of North Carolina for the college football drama. You think this is basketball country? Nonsense. Come to the great state of North Carolina where the big schools go play at the little schools on the road. NC State surviving in hostile territory, beating the Pirates of East Carolina 21-20, and I have never seen anything like this in my life. The North Carolina Tar Heels gave up 40 in the fourth quarter and won. 63-61 over in Boone, North Carolina. Holy cow. Last Saturday.
I don't think their defense gives up 40 in a basketball game in the second half, let alone the fourth quarter.
I love Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director at UNC. You go play at App State 1 week, and then this week you're at Georgia State. That's a little head-scratching, some of these road games the Tar Heels are playing to start the season. More on the week 2 matchups coming up in just a little bit, plus some picks later
in progress
in the show from us, as well as, by the way, already I have a 1-game lead over Mr. Torretta. As
you know what, I took some flyers. I took
you just took one. You took
Cincinnati, the road team. And going back and probably unwisely, it's hard for me to take Florida State, but knowing everything that LSU has kind of went through since the end of Coach O's tenure to now, it was probably more wise to take Florida State at the end, even though, for God's sake, can every college coach inside the 5 please get under center and please hand off the ball?
Yeah,
do not put the ball in the air.
Down in Mobile, Alabama at the Reese's Senior Bowl, they teach you how to do that at the end of the season these days. By the way, we mentioned Arkansas, and then you mentioned Coach O. Little Rock evidently is the place where old coaches come to give all their comments. John Gruden last week, Coach O this week, taking his $17 million. Which door do you want me to go out of?
I'll tell you what, the Arkansas touchdown.
Yeah,
club,
Little Rock.
I don't know. They're paying some big bucks to get coaches to come down there, and then it's kind of a confessional, if you will.
It really is. All right, we're going to get to the Week 2 matchups coming up, but next I have to ask you about the creation of the 12-team playoff, which will premiere 4 years from now. It happened right after we did our show last week, and I want to ask you your thoughts about the 12-team playoff. We have to wait a while to get it. I'm excited that we have it, but I have to play devil's advocate. I'm required to do it, so I've got to ask you some questions coming up next. With Gino Torretta, I'm Taylor Zarzour. This is Touchdown Radio Tailgate on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84.
Back to Touchdown Radio. Here's Gino Torretta and Taylor Zarzour.
He is Gino Torretta. He won the national championship twice. I am Taylor Zarzour. I have been to a lot of national championships.
More than I have.
The process to get to the national championship is going to start 4 years. It's going to change, and it's going to begin 4 years from now, 2026, as we will have a 12-team playoff. Gino will have 6 conference champions and 6 at-large qualifiers as well in this playoff. I think that almost everybody is excited about the playoff expanding. Are you?
I like the expansion, and I think I said it last year. Is it going to change the ultimate winner? I don't know. I mean, based on what we saw in week 1 of the overreactions of week 1, it's Georgia, Alabama again. I think that Ohio State's right there. I want to see them a full, healthy offensive team, but their defense looked like they shored up some of the mistakes of a season ago. So I like the expansion. If you think that it's going to take them till 2026 to start a playoff, this would be like me telling you, Taylor, I'm giving you a 7-8 bedroom house on the beach down in Kiowa, but you have to wait 3 years just to get your affairs in order. Now, you're going to get your affairs in order in a week or two, and you're like, okay, I'm good. I'll take the house. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think that, yeah, there are a lot of moving parts with the playoff and what it's going to turn into. But I like more of the access. And I've heard kind of the naysayers like, well, but then the Ohio State-Michigan game is not going to mean that much. Why
are you stealing all of my devil's advocate questions here?
Well,
you're going through all of it.
The Iron Bowl isn't going to mean that much. Now, that's on the presumption that you think Ohio State-Michigan, they're going to rematch the next week. I mean, come on. Do we really think that Ohio State-Michigan are going to play, and then the rankings
Here's the scenario. Alabama and Georgia, you believe, I'm sure, the best 2 teams in the country right now, right?
Based on how they played.
Yeah, based on how they played so far, you would rank them 1 and 2. That's
sure.
They moved Ohio State down to 3 in the Associated Press and in the coaches poll. And Alabama's number 1, Georgia is number 2. Let's say that's the way it plays out through the duration of the season, like it did last year, and that those are the 2 best teams in the country as they meet each other, both undefeated in the SEC championship game. And let's say a 12-team playoff was waiting for them this upcoming season. Gino, if both teams are 12-0 playing in the SEC championship game, I realize it's the SEC championship, but Alabama blew out Georgia in the SEC championship game last year and then lost in the national championship in the rematch. What is going to be the incentive for those 2 teams to play in that game if they're both automatic locks to play in the playoffs?
To have a chance to win a national championship. Are you crazy?
No, they're both
chance to lace them up. And I mean,
you mean SEC
do you really
championship?
Think the incentive is, the kids don't want to go play? I mean, is there going to be a situation where maybe, hey, you pull a guy out?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, hey, I'm guaranteed in the top 12. But here's the thing. Let's say it happens again last year. The same thing that happened last year. Alabama wins the game to get into the top 4.
Right.
Do we really think that Georgia and Alabama would have had a rematch in week 1? They would have been the top 4 after that game. So they're going to have a bye going into this thing. That's why I'm like, is it going to change who the ultimate national champion is? I don't think so. But it gives more access to teams. What's the other wasn't it Texas, way back in the BCS, Ohio State and Michigan, and everybody's like, oh, we don't want to see a rematch. And it was like 42-44. I'm like, why don't you want to see a rematch? I mean, it's the 2 best teams. So we're not going to just get a rematch right then and there. And I look at it as my question is more of, okay, you're going to expand the playoffs. What happens? Not necessarily like what's your incentive to play in that game? Like, to me as a coach, I would be like, why are we having conference championship games, period? That would be the bigger question.
The answer,
conferences have to adjust.
I love where your head's at, because ideally I would like to get rid of that game, those conference championship games, and take these first round games or quarterfinal games, if you will, and put them in the same place, and you share the same amount of money, if not more money, off of those games. Instead of having the conference. I worry that some of those games are going to lose their worth based off of what I just said. I realize you're saying, well
I would say, why wouldn't you want to lose, though? I mean, I got to be honest.
No, I get, listen.
What do these schools make on a home game? $5 million?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, if we lose a conference title game, hell, we get another home game and another 5, and we're still in the playoffs.
Yeah, there are some tricky parts to it. And again, remember, I want this 12-team playoff. I think it's good for college football. I think it's going to increase the amount of interest in the sport, especially in December and in January. I don't have any issue with them expanding. I am concerned about some of the value of late November, early December matchups, and I'm worried about some teams resting their starters to get ready for the playoffs. I can handle that given the ultimate goal. The other thing to remember, I realize, let me just give this disclaimer, I do games for the SEC network. I realize the rest of the country is going to be a little upset with the way that this 12-team playoff is going to work out, because, Gino, there are going to be 3 or 4 SEC teams in this expanded playoff. You are probably going to take
based on today. I mean, come on though. Let's look at
no. Based on the way how much money these teams are going to make and where all the talent is going to go every single year, based off of what we've seen the last 15 years in college football.
That's what you're saying today,
and it's what I'm going to be saying in 5 years.
Okay, why is Miami in the Coastal and Florida State in the Atlantic Division of the ACC? Because the powers that be thought that Miami and Florida State were going to play every year in the conference title game.
Great.
It was going to be a trip to the national championship, and it hasn't happened. Ever.
It hasn't, and you're right, and that's the way it worked out because Florida State and Miami couldn't pick their coaches. But in the Southeastern Conference, there aren't just 2 good teams. What you're talking about 15, 20 years ago was when the ACC only had 2 good teams. The SEC right now today has 8 teams in the top 25. Mm-hmm. They don't have Florida State and Miami, Gino. They've got 8 Florida States in Miami.
I would say this. I mean, taking that argument, and I don't have a problem. Hell, if the best teams are in the Pac-12, great, put them in. If the best teams are in the SEC or the Big 10 or Big 12, put them in. To me, if you're worried about watered-down product, and watered-down product is more of extra games, injuries, guys getting nicked up. So to me, as part of expansion, I would then take your scheduling and say, okay, Miami, you can't play Bethune. You can't play Southern Miss. Right. All these other schools, you can't play. We have to play Power 5 on Power 5, reduce the regular season back to when I played, and it was 11. So, you're not forced as a team to play now in college 17 games or whatever it's going to be as the eventual national champion. So I would.
I love where your heart is.
The regular season.
I love where your heart is. There's no way that'll happen because all these people. We're dealing with a bunch of capitalists here.
They pay for content, Taylor. They pay for content.
Everybody's going to be thinking with their wallets and how much money they're going to make off of this. And so I don't think there's any scenario where they go back to only playing 11 regular season games. They want the revenue generated from home games and from 12 games a year being on television. I do think what you said, your first point, is a really good one, though. I just did an Ole Miss game this past week. Ole Miss is one of those fringe playoff teams. You think of the last, I guess this is the 9th year of the New Year's Six format that we've used. Ole Miss has made the New Year's Six 3 times. They haven't made the 4-team playoff, but they've made the New Year's Six 3 times, meaning that means they would have made a 12-team playoff probably 2 or 3 times over the last 8 years. What Ole Miss is going to have to do, and dozens of other schools across the country, Miami included, is they're going to have to get rid of those games you're just talking about. Ole Miss is playing Central Arkansas this weekend. They can't play Central Arkansas anytime when you have a 12-team playoff, because even if they lose the game, going 9-3 in the SEC could get you into a 12-team playoff.
Right. And I would say this. I don't have a problem with, because when you're giving the top 4 a bye, okay, what would be so bad, just for example, if we had Ole Miss and Michigan State play at the end of the year? I mean, both teams had great seasons. And you know what? And maybe that's an opportunity with the extra game. The Big Ten can say, well, we beat your 4th-ranked team. And then all of a sudden you're kind of, the conferences are saying, well, I beat your top end is, better than our top end right now, but really you're middle of the pack. Like the whole conference debate thing, I've never understood from the standpoint, maybe because we were in the Independent and the Big East at the end, and our only way to get a ring was to win a national championship. So we didn't care where we were lacing them up. It's like, well, we're better than you because we have this many teams or whatever. No, the best conference to me is the one that puts the team in the national championship and wins the actual game. That's the best conference that year. But I think, listen, we get paid for content. It's live TV. Live games are the best content there is. NFL, college, it doesn't matter. And I think more of those games, but they're not going to – listen, I would love them to take this regular season, make it real games the entire season, 11 or 12, and then expand the playoffs, do the bowls. But to the original point, there's no way in hell they're waiting until 2026. I'd be shocked. I would really be shocked if they didn't get this done before the next season, because and all it is we have the Orange Bowl, I think, has the title game in a couple of years. They would have to move the game back 2 years here. So I think they're trying to figure out, okay, can that happen? Do the Dolphins have to move their last regular season game because the playoff money's moving the needle, but there's no way in hell they're waiting until 2026. I think it's a done deal to be done before next year.
Overall, I think it's really good for college football, but there are a lot of questions to ask before we get to that point. Good discussion there. Coming up next, let's talk about Week 2 of the 2022 college football slate. We'll do that on Touchdown Radio Tailgate on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84.
This is Touchdown Radio. Here are your hosts, Gino Torretta and Taylor Zarzour.
Touchdown Radio Tailgate continues here on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84. With Gino Torretta, I'm Taylor Zarzour. UCF plays Louisville tomorrow night. The rest of the games this week are played on Saturday. And let's go through the slate here, Gino, of some games that we are interested in. First, let's start with noon. At noon, as everybody in the world is talking about this game, Wake Forest at I'm sorry. Actually, that's not the one that we were supposed. And
Sam Hartman's back.
That's right. In all seriousness, Sam Hartman is back, and they are playing at Vandy. Both teams are undefeated. That should be a good game. My man Dave Neal is on the call on SEC Network. But the one that's going to get a lot of attention is number 1 Alabama At number 22 in the coaches poll, Texas. Do you think Steve Sarkisian can keep it close against his old boss, Nick Saban?
Well, the odds makers don't. I mean, it's almost 3 touchdown favorites for Alabama. I think that you have a quarterback that's played in one game for Texas. And listen, for as well as Sarkisian can coach him up offensively and that, I think that there's just so much talent on the defensive side of the ball at Alabama. I think they'll have him confused. And if he's not confused, Will Anderson's probably going to hit him a few too many times.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only thing that's interesting to me about this match, well, I mean, certainly I love the fan basis. I love Austin. You and I have had so much fun tailgating there. Best food in the parking lot I've ever had. I cannot believe that Darrell Royal Stadium has the upper deck reserved for the $1 Million Band, and in response, the $1 Million Band said, "We're not coming," and now the Texas band can't go to Tuscaloosa for the return visit. That's the most drama that you're going to get out of this matchup.
Well, why wouldn't they come?
It's too far. You can't hear them up there. It's too far away. They need to be.
I will tell you this: the band members are lucky because and I know that's in the sun the whole day.
Oh,
I mean,
brutal. 11 a.m.
They would be dropping like flies.
Yeah, and they wear those old like battlefield uniforms too. It's
good polyester.
Yeah,
no breathability fabric.
Yeah, it's not smart. The Johnny Majors Classic, round number 2. Pitt beat Tennessee in Knoxville last year. They play at Heinz Field this year. You just already said it. Tennessee's significantly improved in Josh Heupel's second season.
And my concerns with Pitt were the defense. I mean, I thought West Virginia was gashing them up and down the field. Had it not been for that pick 6, I think the game would have been different. I think that Heupel's system is finally starting to to catch hold. But it's on the coaching staff. It's on Narduzzi. He's known as a defensive guy. He has a lot to fix after that West Virginia game, and I think it's questionable whether they can get it all fixed.
Kentucky's ranked 20th. They're at number 12, Florida. Florida goes from unranked to number 12 as they win that close call against Utah. What about the Cats coming in to try to beat the Gators in the swamp again?
Well, I think that Kentucky's got to be full speed. Are they going to be full speed and all their weapons on offense? That's a question. I think a little bit of overreaction on week 1 to take Florida from, hey, they're not that good, they needed a new coach, to all of a sudden they're a top 15 team, and one of the 8 that you mentioned that is in the Southeastern Conference. But I would say that the Swamp will be fired up and ready to go, which is, as well as I do, normally a Kentucky game, the kids are gone by about the second quarter, or maybe show up in the second quarter, and they're back on that street on Tennessee, whatever, the street just north of the stadium, having a couple cold drinks. But I think it's going to be a good game, and I think Mark Stoops will have his defensive guys ready to go against Richardson. But I think anytime Richardson's on TV, I'm a big fan. I love watching just a guy that can play like that.
Yeah. Fowler, Herbstreit, and Torretta together in Palo Alto this weekend. Number 10.
One of us is going to be on the roof of the stadium again, and it's not those two guys.
Touchdown Radio broadcast this Saturday. Number 10 USC at Stanford. Is David Shaw's team back? Because the last couple of years have been head-scratching. They have not been the same program.
Yeah, but they did thump USC last year. And I think obviously in their notes they always bring up the 40-point underdog where they were able to beat SC and that. So I think that
what's your deal, bro?
Some reason that Stanford kind of has SC's number, and I think that from the standpoint of, listen, there's been a lot of hype around Caleb Williams, the receiver Jordan and these guys, and SC is, hey, they won the transfer portal this year. They're all of a sudden top 10. But this is going to be a test, and it's going to be, you got McKee at quarterback at Stanford. He's a veteran, even though he's technically, I think he's only a sophomore, but he went on a mission. So, he's older, he's more mature, he's more experienced. So I think Stanford's going to have their hands full this weekend.
You always want a good matchup on late at night after you get off the air. You got one. Number 9 Baylor at number 21 BYU. I don't think there is a team outside the power leagues this year that has a path like Cincinnati did to the playoff. But if I were going to give an argument that one could make it, it would be BYU. I'm not picking them to go undefeated. Houston would be the team I would look at that has a better chance of going undefeated. Their schedule, Coach Holgerson's schedule, I don't think lends itself to making the playoff. But just watch this game tonight with BYU and Baylor, or Saturday night rather, because if BYU wins it, then you're going to have some chatter about the Cougs this year having a shot to get to the playoff. But they'd have to go undefeated.
That and Baylor's got high hopes. I mean, they're expecting to compete for the Big 12 championship game, and this is going to be big for both of these schools. BYU, if they are able to go undefeated and have a chance at a path to a playoff, and Baylor's thinking this is our first test on the road.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, the BYU is at Oregon next week. They host Notre Dame and Arkansas, play at Boise State, at Stanford. Again, if they run the table, they got a shot. I don't think they're going to do that, but should be a fun game. Outside the top 25, a couple others to mention. Colorado is at Air Force. Watch out, Buffaloes, who are already 0-1 on the season, playing at another school in the same state. Jim Boeheim is playing at Jim Calhoun. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a typo. Syracuse is at UConn this weekend. Watch out, Syracuse, going to Jim Mora Jr. in Storrs, Connecticut this weekend. Old Dominion is at East Carolina. The environment in Greenville, North Carolina is one you always need to see. Texas Tech is without its quarterback, playing Dana Holgerson and the Houston Cougars. That game should last 5.5 hours. Iowa and Iowa State will last about 2 hours. That game is a great rivalry game. I've always wanted to see that game. And then the last one to mention, another late kick for you, G. Mississippi State and Coach Leach are at Arizona. 11 o'clock kick on FS1.
And because of that, I like Arizona.
Oh, okay.
I played one of those late games. I think it was my senior year or my junior year. We played Arizona, and I can remember at halftime. I think it was like 2 a.m. East Coast time, and I mean, I was like yawning. You know me, I'm a quick to sleep guy. I was exhausted at halftime of the game, and I bet there's a lot of these kids now that most of these programs are practicing early in the morning, so they get to bed early. So I think that's going to affect Mississippi State.
Okay, there you go. There's already one pick in the books between Torretta and Zarzour. I'm taking Coach Leach and the Pirate. I'm taking the Pirate on the road in Tucson this weekend, as you're taking the upset there. Bulldogs are a double-digit road favorite in that game. We'll give you the
Come on, Fish. Come on, Jet.
We'll give you the other picks coming up in just a moment as Touchdown Radio Tailgate continues on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84.
Back to Touchdown Radio. Here's Gino Torretta and Taylor Zarzour.
It is Touchdown Radio Tailgate on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84. He's the 1992 Heisman Trophy winner, Gino Torretta. I'm Taylor Zarzour. It's way too early to really dive that deep into the Heisman Trophy.
Oh, Lord.
But if I'm giving away Heisman Weekly Awards, Gino,
okay,
I'm giving it to Stetson Bennett, the quarterback of the Georgia Bulldogs, who, of course, guided them to winning a national championship last year. He was phenomenal against the Oregon Ducks last week.
How about the play looked like the Three Stooges, where he was running around and just posted up a right leg and fired a bullet in the end zone for a touchdown? Now, I will say that is the most ill-advised throw of any coach will tell you. Do not do this. Don't do this. Don't. Oh, okay. Touchdown.
25 of 31, 368 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. And he also ran it in for a score as well. He was phenomenal in that beatdown of Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks last weekend. So you have to start probably with him in terms of who.
So do people say the Ducks are still built in the same vein as other SEC teams? I mean, because that's all we heard going into the game. You know what? They're built the same way. It's their strength up front. Well, that's a major going back to the drawing board up there in Eugene.
Yeah, it is. If we're going to give shout-outs for big stats, I got to give a shout-out to Myers Park High School alum Drake May, quarterback of the Tar Heels, who threw for 646 yards and 9 touchdowns against Appalachian State, and they needed every single one of those in that 63-61 victory.
Did you call that early? You got Mays on a inside NIL deal from right there in Myers Park.
Let's go Mustangs!
You were watching him. You would go with your daughters and Betsy to the game, and this guy can play.
Oh my gosh, I've been watching him for years. He is sensational. Yeah, so I had to give him some love. Chase Brown, the Illinois running back, ran for 350 yards last week. He gets a shout-out as well. Those were some of the best performances that we saw in week number 1 of the season. Okay, let's get to the picks. You sure about this? You already said it in the last segment. You're going Arizona with the upset over Mississippi State. 11 o'clock kick on FS1 on Saturday night.
Well, I didn't say I'm going with that. I said I like Arizona because of that. I didn't say what's the
line is 10.5. You'll take Arizona plus the points?
I'll take Jed. Heck yeah.
Straight up.
It's 11 o'clock. I'll take them straight up. I'll take them straight up.
Very good. So there you go. An upset pick. I should mention Gino went 5-3 last week. I went 6-2, but I did have to buy dinner at the end of last season.
Hey, you started off hot last year, if you recall correctly, and then I was able to walk you down.
That's what happens every year. Let's go next to number 23, Wake Forest, playing at the 2-0 Vanderbilt Commodores. They're at Dudley Field, Vanderbilt Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. The Deeks are 13.5-point favorites, and you mentioned it already, G. They have their quarterback back. Sam Hartman, thankfully, is going to be playing quarterback for the Deacons this weekend.
Yeah, obviously he's got the blood clot issues and had to have surgery, and it seems like he's got a clean bill and he can play. But either way, even if the backup's playing, I like Wake Forest. Although I think the over/under was only 3 for Vandy, and they're two games already on the way. I mean, if they win one, you got a winner chicken dinner ticket.
And they play Northern Illinois next week. So
that's what I mean. Why weren't we all over this? We're here for generated content, but also giving some people some sound advice.
Yeah, we need to get the bear, Chris Felica, on the show to help us out here in future weeks. So we both like the Deeks, ranked 23rd to win at Vanderbilt. Again, 12 o'clock kick on SEC Network. Excited to get to watch some of that as I prepare for my game.
Did Bear need some security last week at Columbus?
He probably did, yeah.
Well, they were celebrating the 20-year anniversary when they beat Miami in the national championship, and Bear showed a shirt from Dime Life that had the flag as the 6th championship ring, and I can't imagine the people in Columbus took too kindly.
He likes to jab him a little bit when he can. The other game at noon that we'll be paying attention to is number 1 Alabama at number 22 in the coaches poll. Texas is a 12 o'clock kick on Fox. The atmosphere will be phenomenal there in Austin at Darrell Royal Stadium. And the tailgating will be terrific to have these two schools competing against each other in the same town, in the same facility will be great. Once the game starts, though, it could be a different story. Tide is favored by 20.5, and I just think they're way too much for Texas. I'm going to take Bama to roll against the Horns.
Yeah, our Austin Country Club host, the Spencer family, will be in the stands cheering, but like you said, it's going to be a one-sided affair. I just think that Sarkisian doesn't have the talent, or you know what team does have the talent to keep up with Bama.
I know that there's some old school barbecue places that everybody raves about in Austin, and you should. I mean, there's a bunch of them that I love. There's a new place that's only been open for 5 or 6 years called Cooper's that's downtown, and I think it gives every single
solid. That was solid.
They give
although I would say now, sound advice. Went to Fox's in Atlanta this past weekend, and could have been the best ribs that I've ever eaten in a restaurant.
Wow, how about that?
They were strong. Phenomenal.
Strong words. I might be headed through there this weekend. I'll write that down. Number 17 Pitt is playing number 24 Tennessee. This is a 3:30 kick on ABC. The Volunteers lost this game to Pitt last year. They are favored by 6.5 this year, Gino, on the road.
I'm taking Tennessee. The Pitt defense just concerned me against West Virginia, and I'm sure Narduzzi will get it fixed. But there was too many holes and big plays that West Virginia was able to capitalize on. So I'm going to take Tennessee.
Okay, I'm going to go with you there. I think it'll be a close call. I wouldn't be surprised if it's very similar to the backyard brawl and it goes 4 quarters and it's right down to the wire. But I'll take Tennessee in a squeaker. It's a lot of points. Maybe Pitt plus 6.5, but Tennessee to win outright if we're really getting specific. We're just picking all these games straight up, by the way. The next one is Iowa versus Iowa State. It's a 4 o'clock kick on BTN on the Big Ten Network. Both teams are 1-0. Iowa got a late 2-run double last week to beat South Dakota State 7-3. I'm going to take the Clones as dogs on the road to beat the Hawkeyes. And my friend Zach Johnson, if you're listening, yeah, you heard me. I'm taking the Clones to beat your Hawkeyes on the road this week as dogs.
You know what I love is you act like that's a stretch. They had 109 yards passing and 57 rushing in a game, in an entire game. When you're struggle that much offensively, I'm with you. I can't take.
Okay, we're both going Clones.
Iowa.
Wow.
We're going dogs on the road.
Let me just say this. Coach Stig is the head coach at South Dakota State of the Jackrabbits. They're the best program that's never won the FCS National Championship. Hopefully this is a sign that they have a chance to win that title this year. I've done some of those games in the past. It would be great to see one of the best coaches in all of college football, Coach John Stiegelmeier, come through and win the national championship. It's not surprising that that game was so competitive last weekend. Let's go next to the Swamp. Gainesville, Florida. Number 20, Kentucky, is at number 12, Florida. This is a 7 o'clock kick on ESPN, and Florida is a 5.5-point favorite in this game. I'm going Cats on the road to beat the Gators. Coach Stoops.
I'm overreaction. First week, I'm all in on the Gators. I'm taking the Gators at home, but I would have liked to have picked the brain of an odds maker before last week to just say, hey, what do you think the line's going to be Kentucky, Florida in week 2? And see what the difference is to what it is right now.
That's a good point. Yeah, I bet you it's rather significant. All right, I got Kentucky, you have Florida, so that's a difference. And then I've got Mississippi State, you've got Arizona. We have 2 games left. Gino is the only person that calls games that also likes to pick them before they start. Next, we have number 10, USC, at Stanford, 7:30 on Touchdown Radio and on ABC. The Trojans are 8.5-point favorites, G.
You know, I think that that's a good line. But I'm taking SC. I think that all those transfers, the new quarterback, but I think that they got thumped last year at home, and I think they're going to make the necessary changes, and they are the Pac-12's last hope, the Roxy Bernstein's last hope from out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, the Pac-12's last hope, who's leaving you, by the way. you're cheering for a program that is leaving your conference.
By the time they're supposedly going into Big Ten, who knows what? I mean, who knows what
the world will look like?
Is gonna be.
I'll put 2 fingers in the air as well. I'll go SC to win on the farm on Saturday night. No, you guys.
I'll send you a panoramic of the farm from the roof of the stadium. It is gorgeous, and thank God it's temperate climate and not the southeast.
Yeah,
or else I would be broadcasting the game in shorts.
Yeah, the humidity is not going to be that high, so I hope Brox and you have a great broadcast on Saturday night. Finally, number 9 Baylor is at number 21 BYU. This is a 10:15 kick on Saturday night on ESPN. The Baylor Bears are 4-point dogs at BYU, Gino.
Well, being a preseason number one and traveling to Provo, Utah, to the mighty Tide Detmers, and then beating us pretty good in 1990, I see why BYU is favored. But I like Baylor on the road, especially good points.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm, as Mr. Corso likes to say, I'm going to go with Hall and Brooks. Jaron Hall last week had looked terrific in his first game of the season at quarterback. They blew out South Florida down on the road in Tampa. They come home, and as you just said, a great atmosphere in Provo. They surprise Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears and win the game. So I'm going BYU Cougars at home. Steve Smith, stop sending mean texts about the school that you hate the most. I'm going BYU. You go Baylor. Okay, so we have 3 differences this week. I'm taking Kentucky. You're taking Florida. I'm taking BYU. You're taking Baylor. I'm taking the Pirate, Mike Leach in Mississippi State. You're taking the home team.
That might be the only one I feel bad about. The other ones I feel pretty good about.
The Arizona Wildcats. So we have 3 differences this week. I love that we have some of these big matchups, Gino. I hope that Alabama-Texas game materializes and it's competitive. To see those 2 teams playing each other, I think is great. We had Notre Dame and Ohio State last week. I think that's healthy for college football.
Well, there's no question. And I just we talked about the expanded playoff, what it's going to look like. I just, to me, is there are other things that they should be looking at, making the regular season Power 5 competitive every week. And we'll see how it goes. But we missed it, and it's back.
We sure did miss it, and we love being on this program. We thank you for listening to us this week. We are back next week on Thursday night on Touchdown Radio here on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84.